Okay. All right. So thank you, everybody. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. My name is Niraj Kumar, and I'm lead Azure architect. I'm also an MCT, Microsoft Certified Trainer. I'm the organizer of Azure Talk. Azure Talk is a weekly session that happens over the weekend on Saturday, from 12 p.m. EST for 1 hour, where we talk and cover different Azure features. And in the same continuation, we have covered more than 17 sessions till now. And last week we couldn't do this session because of the holiday and festivity season in India, so we decided to not to hold this session. But prior to that, we had a session and we covered networking, new networking feature which is introduced, which is launched in Ignite by Microsoft. And we had one session, so this is going to be continuation of the second session where we will cover more and we'll go deeper into the networking features that we have. Now, with that, we have two of our guest speaker who is going to help me and assist me with this session that we are going to go have. You have Rahul Mathuria. He's Azure support engineer. He works at Microsoft Global Technical Support Center based out of Bangalore. And then I'm also joined by Uday. He's tech lead at Wipro, and probably you would have seen both of these guys very active on our Azure Talk forum, which is a chat-based community group. So in case you are not member of our Azure Talk community group, please feel free to join. So you can join, by going to azuretalk.cloudeasy.com. So azuretalk.cloudeasy.com, and you can become member. It is a very active community with 1,600 members in it, and we have a very strong, technically strong people to answer your questions. With that, and in case if you want to refer our past sessions, you can always go to our website, www.cloudeasy.com, and you can refer all our past sessions which we have published. So in case you want to know about the past sessions that we have done for, let's say, for networking, the Azure networking enhancement. So you can come to this page, which is cloudeasy.com/Azure Talk, and you can look at that. And we have published the Azure networking enhancement announced at Microsoft Ignite session. That is the first session. So in case you want to, if you have missed the first session, you want to, just go through that. You can go through it. And plus, we have also published all the past Azure Talk sessions. So this is the place. This is the one-stop shop for you for all the past published Azure Talk. And you can go again. The URL is cloud with K, cloudeasy.com, and you can you will have access to everything, including how to join our Azure Talk a community group. So all the steps are listed. So please feel free to hit the website cloudeasy.com, and from there you will get all the information at one place. With that, we'll go ahead and get started directly into the agenda. So in past, we have talked about the Azure networking enhancement, which was introduced in Ignite 2017. And we discussed about virtual network service endpoint in past session. Then we also talked about global virtual network peering. So and DDoS application gateway. So today, what are we going to do is we will go through those topics which we didn't cover in our last session. And I will be, as I said, I will be joined by Uday and Rahul to cover all those topics, and I will also be there to take any questions answered. And in case if you have any questions, please feel free to type in the chat. We also have our Azure Talk core group members who will be actively answering your questions on the chat window as well. And in case if you need to speak up, you can type in the chat and I can unmute yourself, and you can ask your question. So with that, we will move into the first topic of the point to site VPN support and traffic manager real user measurement. And I would hand over the baton to Uday to talk about this.
Yeah.
Back to
So
you.
am I audible? Yeah. So am I audible, Niraj?
Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you, Niraj. Thank you, everyone. Good evening and good afternoon. So that was night session on the Ignite which we took previously. We talked about a lot of things. We talked about VNet peering. We talked about network augmentation. We talked about the lot of the service endpoint enhancements on the VNet. Kind of fun. So now continuing to that, we have a VPN, the support, the P2 point to site support. The point to site support earlier we are supporting only to the certificate based authentication. Now we have announced to support the radius server, that is the identity of AD. You can use your Azure, the Active Directory username and password to connect your point to site VPN, because a lot of requests we generally see the certificate base was painful, and we don't have any other identities to authenticate and do the the point to site VPN support, full flex, a simple setup actually. So that's the enhancement, the radius server integration. You can see it from the portal. When you go to the VPN gateway, you have an option to select the certificate base as well as radius server integration as well. So that's a good enhancement. And the point to site VPN, earlier it was supported in Windows client. Now it has been supported and it is in GA for the Mac OS. And this complete the point to site, the VPN support, whatever we are talking right now, it was early in a preview and it was now GA. So that's the more about the point to site. And the other feature which you have in now, the point to site, earlier we used to have the S2 SSTP and PPTP. Generally we don't use PPTP as a less secure, and we prefer to use SSTP with a certificate based authentication. Now IKEv2 tunnel support, because the most of the compliance requirement they talked about, I need the IKEv2 support. Now that is also available. So that's a great announcement in the Ignite they announced. So we excited to take it now to the production environment. That's all right now for the point to site VPN. Yeah.
Yeah, so
So
just to add on
yeah.
top of what Uday said. So point to site VPN is not supported in Mac OS. Earlier you had only had point to site VPN client that you install on your Windows. So only the MSI package was available for Windows. Now it's also available for Mac OS. That's one benefit. The second is, like, now you can use Azure AD for VPN authentication. So now you don't need any. If you really want to authenticate your users, you can use Azure AD integrated or Azure AD authentication for VPN. So that's another enhancement that you have. Apart from that, Uday has already talked about the radius server integration. So these are the three feature enhancement which is introduced for point to site VPN. Again, it's a point to site VPN. Usually you use this VPN to connect your workstation, a developer's workstation, to a dev test environment in Azure. You don't use point to site VPN for any kind of connecting on premise to cloud. You usually use site-to-site VPN or use ExpressStart. But this is point-to-site. This is used by a developer trying to connect to their dev test environment in Azure.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah. Yeah. Thank you, Niraj.
Yeah.
Yeah, the next topic, I'd like to take it here. The traffic manager. We had a little overview about in the last session. So now I just want to, I've taken this scenario into my production, where I've seen the traffic manager helping me, which is a DNS based, the routing and priority things on the, the URL forwarding to map your production workloads. So now if I have a traffic manager, I have a solution deployed into that. How do I view what is my current workload, what is my it's on which IP, which uses it's on to the traffic manager, and and the where is my load is going, how do I understand the load. So before we used to have a lot of analytics tool, and to understand the load used to have analytics and Google Analytics and a lot of tool into your web pages integration, and do this is the web, the region where we get a lot of hits. But now that's a additional enhancement which traffic manager, I don't need to go for the Google Analytics or anything to check on the load and improve my the capacity planning for my the next cycle. So that's the real user measurement will help you to understand the traffic, where is my traffic is coming, and this is the traffic which I'm going to expect a huge, so I can prepare myself to the next cycle to the enlarge my the scalability on the workload of web app or either any of the solution deployed under traffic manager. So again, the additional one option we have, a feature we have, it's a traffic view. Generally you will have a traffic view, just go ahead and enable. It doesn't require any prerequisites, but the real user measurement required a prerequisites, like you need to download a code. It's a small JavaScript code, you have to put it into your you know in your website. Generally we do it in your a lot of analytics, you used to copy the code and you put it in your header file. So that's how your it's has been understood by all the analytics tool, right? The same way the real user measurement, you have to download, you have to go to the traffic manager, you will have already enabled that feature. You can go to the real user tab and you just go ahead and download that code, and you can go ahead and you know enable on your header file. It will help you to understand the load and where is my capacity is going. All this you can view from there. So the traffic view again, you can go in granular level. Okay, I am eating from this IP, say 1,000 hits. I'm eating from this IP, 10,000 hits. So I'm seeing this region, this particular IP is hitting lot. Is it a real traffic? I can understand more, concentrate on the those loads of the IPs, and I can just view on analytically, quickly. You will have a number of uh, on a public IP level listing of all the counts of its to your application. So that is a quick dashboard you will get. Okay, who is my, okay, my application is got struck, my application is got something like hanged, or somebody, I'm seeing unexpected workload, I'm seeing unexpected hit, DDoS kind of hits. So where is my hits are coming? You can quickly view to the traffic view. You can see that I'm getting 10,000 hits, I'm getting 2,000 hits, which is not expected. So this the traffic view which helps in that kind of scenarios. This is an easy enabling. You just go ahead and enable. It will take to the 10 to 15 minutes of time to display your statistics of lot all the workloads getting into the web page.
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah, so just in nutshell, what is traffic view? So traffic view, it gives you a graphical breakdown of your all the traffic that your Azure Traffic Manager is hitting. So it can give you a breakdown from the region. It can give you a breakdown of particular IP if you're getting those requests. So those things. So basically, it provides an analytics and a visualization of your incoming traffic to your website. So usually you will have Azure Traffic Manager and you will have a web app in the background. So now you can visualize the traffic using Traffic View. So this is a new feature which is introduced again in at Microsoft Ignite. All right, and as I said, if you have any question, please feel free to type those questions in the chat, and then we will take it, and we have our team members ready to answer those questions. And if in case you need to speak up, please raise your hand or you type in the chat. I'll unmute yourself and you can ask your question. Thank you. So with that, let's move on to the next topic.
Yeah.
Which is VPN performance. Go ahead.
Okay, so I'm just a little delay in the screen. So okay, still it's not.
It didn't refresh.
Yeah. Yeah. So yeah, it's a good enhancement. We talked about with the VPN things a lot. When it comes to the VPN performance, it puts a lot of challenging for us, because I have an express route or I have an site-to-site VPN where my workloads are huge. I seen the traffics are getting more workloads on the tunnel. When they don't have the huge performance on the the VPN traffic or the VPN tunnel gateways, you'll have a lot of issues. This has been taken in a concern the last year. So that's the latest they have considered, and they have enhanced into the VPN gateway 2 and VPN gateway the SKU profiles. So now they have much better and increased that to the 6x VPN performance. So now with this performance, I can use now as a the site to site VPN or my VPN gateway as an the failover for my express route. But previous to last year, I was setting up an express route and VPN setup to each of every subscription of the VNet. My VPN express route goes down, my VPN chokes like anything, because I don't have enough bandwidth to even my ISP perfect, my routes are perfect, even still my the traffic which I have a workload huge. So that's put me into a lot of difficulties. Now with the 6x performance, you will be getting a 1.25 Gbps throughput. That's again you have to consider. Sometimes you will not get 1.2 performance Gbps of performance due to a lot of factors like ISP provider in middle who sits on the taking your traffic to the Azure cloud. So that's a quick enhancement. It's a better now. We can go ahead and use VPN gateway as a DR. I mean, failover for express route. So the coexistence can be going to work very well. So with express route. So that's a good enhancement, and support custom IPv6 and IKEV policy. We have a lot of scenarios when we have a custom IPsec, because the all the vendors or the client or the third party the firewall providers doesn't have sometimes they will not work with the default AES 256, which was the one which is supported by Azure. Now it has moved far. It supports for all the IKE policies, and the custom policy AES 250 SHA-1 DH group 14, that help you compliance meets, because your customer asks, because I want to set up, this is my the policy, I want to set up this policy only according to your my compliance company requirement. So this now has been taken care as a feedback, and now that has been enhanced, and you can go ahead and meet your compliance requirement. I am secure, I am more secure with the current VPN policy. So that's the one more enhancement, along with the the performance upgrade, as well as the the IPsec policy custom upgrades. Yeah, and Neeraj, you can add anything you want.
Sure. So maybe I'll let Rahul come in. So Rahul, do you have any points to add on? Rahul, can you hear me?
No, not as of now. He actually talked about that.
Yeah, so
express
probably
route
you can talk
performance.
about this 1.25 Gbps throughput. I think it was announced last Ignite, but then there were some challenges which was underway, but now it truly supports 1.25 Gbps. Earlier, if I'm
Absolutely.
not
So,
mistaken, it was only supporting VPN gateway up to 250 Mbps, and then they introduced new gateway SKUs to support the
right.
higher bandwidth.
Yes, absolutely. So recently, Microsoft has introduced VPN GW1, GW2, and GW3, different type of SKUs, which is different from the standard and high performance SKUs which you may have seen in the portal. So this SKUs supports the higher bandwidth, multiple tunnels, which is required for it. As Uday has mentioned, that sometimes the express, so most of the customer go with the coexistence scenario, and when the express route goes down, it tends to fail over to the side to side, which normally the customer wants in that way. Now, when the express route the failover happens, that's the data path which express route uses. It's huge, like it's go over the service provider connection over the BGP. Now, if in case we create with the standard performance gateway, which is like you can go ahead and create the gateway with that particular SKU, which is fine if you don't have the bandwidth coming over that VPN gateway to the higher extent. But it gets choked for sure if in case you have multiple the multiple packets or the data bandwidth coming over the particular side to side connection is high. And that's the reason, like recently, Microsoft introduced that you please go ahead and create these create the VPN gateways with those queues. So in case of Express route goes down or the link goes down, you will have the VPN gateway with that sort of capacity that can handle any data bandwidth coming over the VPN.
Yeah, thank you, Rahul. So, like just as I drew on the screen, so you can use Express route and VPN gateway and as a coexistence. So basically, your VPN could be as a like standby in case the Express route goes down, and both can coexist. So essentially, when you go with Express route, you know that with Express route you can go up to 10 Gbps, and if it is a point-to-point link, then it's up to 1 Gbps. So in order to support the same amount of bandwidth, Microsoft has started offering this upgraded version of Gateway, which supports up to 1.25 Gbps. So I see there is a question in the chat. It is more of troubleshooting. So Arun, you had a question that you have frequent disconnection from point to site. So that's something probably we'll have to look into and troubleshoot. So there are some troubleshooting steps. You can post those questions in our Azure Talk forum, and we will be able to help you there on those aspects. All right.
Well, I can answer that in case, Arun, if you're having a trouble with that, you may need to see if there is any update happen on a gateway, because sometimes I have seen a lot of customers coming with the frequent disconnects. If there is any update happen, certificates may get changed. So you can see that. But in terms of troubleshooting, you need to check the certificates and collect traces here and there. So that way you can do it.
All right. Thank you, Rahul. So let's move on. Network watcher.
Yeah. Sorry. So yeah, network watcher, the more we have seen the five tuple, level monitoring and like security group view, IP flow verify, next up, packet capturing, kind of a lot of energy flow logs capturing. Now we will be more concentrating with network watcher with energy flow log integrations. So earlier days, I've seen that NSG doesn't have, the log monitoring. Say I have a, the 500 to 600, 500 or 400 rules. One subscription, I manage a lot of subscription, but I don't have any control. What is my traffic? Where is my traffic hitting? Who is the which traffic? Which rule is getting hit on lot? That's been that lot of security compliance team have come up. I have a management to my the control panel log. What about the data panel log? The control panel log, in the sense what I do it in Azure, like my creation, deletion of any resources, that I do control. But how do I control the NSG, like network side? I only monitor using or control using NSG rules. But how do I do that? That's the data pan logs, that more on like what do we do, and where is my it is going, which server is eating. So that's put me the NST log integration flow. You can now integrate the NST logs with your open source tools, and now quickly you can integrate with your OMS. So that's your ready made ready solution. You can just go within 10 to 15 minutes. I was just activating, it's 10 to 15 minutes. I just go and activate on a per NSG, and just go and click, and I have to select my OMS, existing OMS, and I add my solution, like Azure Network Security Group Analytics solution. Before it was Azure Network Analytics, which is depreciated in Jan 2017, I probably. So that's been upgraded, and now we have a direct connectivity. You don't need a storage. You don't need just go ahead and click. It's a simple setup. Go ahead and just enable it from there. And you have other open source tools. Now this NSG flow log integration, you can there is a Elastic Stack. There are open source tools, lot of tools we have, and you can go and do the integration, which will help you to do the customization of the five tuple view. The five tuple view, you might be knowing, like the source, destination, source IP port, so destination IP port, and that's a more view. You will be forwarding this log previously to your storage account. Now with OMS you can directly integrate without a storage account. And how do I integrate with NSD logs with open source tools? You just have to map the NSD logs, all the MSD logs from the network watcher to the particular storage. It will store in a JSON file, and you can download into your open source tool to integrate actually. So this is what the more analytical view we can get into it. I was seeing the reports, my outbound traffics are hitting very high. Till now I don't know, is it my outbound traffics are enabled? So that has been the security issue. I have been trying to do it. Okay, now the logs are the straightforward. I have logs, I can put it in my log analytics open source tool. I can just everything viewed. That puts the compliance team very well. I'm not managing right now as a security team managing them. You can security
Yeah.
team, you can integrate and give it to you. Yeah.
Yeah, that's perfect. So, like, as Uday, if I could add on, so Uday said that earlier you could integrate your NSG flow log. So you have to understand what is NSG flow log, right? So it's basically, we all know we have network security group. Then Microsoft introduced something called NSG flow log, which helps you determine which rule is dropping your packet. So if you really want to troubleshoot in terms of your network connectivity for your VM and it's unable to reach out to internet, or one VM is unable to reach out to another VM, you can look into an SG flow log. Now that was good, but when you really look at the flow log, it's linear, it's row wise, and it's really difficult to make sense. So that's when Microsoft said, okay, fine, now you can bring in an NSG flow log to OMS. And earlier we had to use a blob, so you will basically dump your NSG flow log in a blob storage, and from there you will import it in OMS. So now with this, you can directly integrate NSG flow log to OMS, and plus third-party tools that Uday talked about. So this is the enhancement which is introduced in this feature, especially at Ignite.
Thank you, Niraj.
No. All right. So with that, if you have any question, you can feel free to type in the chat. We'll move on to the next one. And yes, I just forgot to mention, you also have Network Watcher tool. So Network Watcher tool basically helps you to capture the traffic, which is going on your NIC card of your VM. So if you want to enable Network Watcher, you can enable the Network Watcher, which will capture the packet traffic, which you can analyze using any of the popular tool that you have. So you can use your Wireshark, or you can use Network Monitor, Netmon from Microsoft to analyze those traffic and packets. So Network Watcher is something which you can also, and all these two gets integrated to OMS and any of the third-party tools.
Okay.
So the question is it support 3T SIMs? So I'm not sure. Maybe is this a tool that you're referring to? Or let me unmute yourself, So I unmuted. Go ahead, ask your question. Oshri?
Hi, my name is Oshridan. Thank you for letting me asking the question. Just want to ask if it's supported by the third-party SIMs
Oh,
systems.
oh, so
SIMs,
you're okay. You're talking about same. So you're talking about
Yeah, because
smart
I have a
device.
lot of customers that asking me they have a SIM system, and they want to integrate it and making alert and things like that.
Okay. Yeah, I think this can be integrated with third-party SIM. So right now we said that we can integrate with the OMS, so you can also use other tool to basically port that. And there is a way, as we said, if your tool doesn't support native integration, in that case you can use blob storage. So in the blob storage, your log will go, and then you can write your own custom script to import in your SIM, and which is um, you can write your own script to basically integrate with your own SIM. So that's also possible. All right. So with that, let's move on to the next slide. All right. So I think this is we have already covered in the previous one, but a little bit more about network watches. So go ahead if you want to add anything, Uday or Rahul.
Well, yes, as you explained, we have explained last time as well that Network Watcher enables the diagnostics for the packet, how it flows. So, in the as per the diagram which you have seen, or the screenshots which you have, the virtual machine is actually trying to reach bin.com on port 80, and if you see down below, it shows what is the next hop for that particular packet. So that's where the network watcher comes into the picture, and it's very helpful tool where you can see the connectivity, whether it's reachable, what hop it's getting dropped, and why it is getting dropped. So it's integrating that. It's a good feature to enable in any sort of packet flow to capture it.
Yeah. And just to add, Rahul, so we have a scenario, that I have a connectivity between VPN, the customer to my network. I need to know about VPN issue. I mean, I'm not seeing the traffic from, the customer end who connects to the VPN, the site-to-site VPN. But when we have asked, they have said everything is okay from their end. But we want to verify from Azure, and how do we do? I do my packets are going to my, the destination, the client mission. So that's the the connectivity check, which is in preview. So right, that you can give your source mission as Azure, and destination mission as your client mission, and with the port, whatever the application port it connects, and it gives me a success saying that okay, my ports are connected. That's something issue when the the inbound connectivity. Oh,
Yeah.
this is what I understood. I quickly able to understand.
So you
Yeah.
can see, yeah, so I've just enlarged it for the audience. If you could see that you can specify your virtual machine and the port, then you specify the destination. So when you specify the destination, either you can specify manually, which will be your internet or any route that you want, or you can also select virtual machine. So if you really want to do that, you can select your virtual machines for that. So in that case, you will be able to do a connectivity check. Again, it is in public preview, but you can use this. So you can select your destination virtual machine and you can specify those IPs. So you will be able to troubleshoot a connectivity issue. Let's say from web app, you are unable to reach out to your SQL server, and because your NSG, you have misconfigured your NSG, or you blocked certain ports. So in that case, you can use this connectivity check as a part of troubleshooting under the network watcher. All right, and then again, this network watcher and the NSG flow log is now, it has been integrated. So at the same at the one pane itself, you can go and look at the NSG flow log. So if you can look at these diagnostic tools that you see over here, and you can look at the IP flow, and within the same logs, if you actually there's the bottom, within the same pane, you will be able to access your NSG flow log. So from there itself, you can look at and as I said earlier, this can be these NSG flow logs can be integrated with open source log management tools. Some of the names are listed here: Elasticsearch, Grafana, and Greylogs, plus any other log management tool, or SIM per se. Oshi has that question, so uh, so you can use that with any tool, and if it is not natively available, you can always use blob storage, and from there you can always import into your preferred SIM too. All right, let's move on to the next slide. So this slide is about an accelerated networking. So go ahead, Rahul.
Sure. Thank you, Niraj. I'm just waiting to get the screen loaded.
Sure.
It's still loading here. So I just got that. So accelerated networking is something where we have seen that most of the times over the workload in Azure, it's very extreme, and you're not able to send or receive the data at very high speed, right? Which is reliable streaming you want to do, but you cannot do it. And you will see the higher CPU utilization, right? At that time, we have seen that there's a bottleneck for the input-output data bandwidth or throughput for that particular virtual machine over that net. And that's when when you see this kind of issues, we have Microsoft has introduced actually accelerated networking tool, where you will not see such kind of issues. You will have high performance, very the CPU utilization is very low, and you will see the lower latency in that feature. And because of that, the Azure is providing you the per next speed of 25 Gbps for virtual machine, and now it's been announcing 230 Gbps as well. It's been introduced to Linux machine as well, not being enabled for all the region, but and also for Linux you need to apply or register for that feature. But Windows, you can still go ahead and enable that. I just pasted the link how to enable the feature for accelerated networking. Now, accelerated networking is something like you cannot do it for the existing nets. If you already have a VM virtual machine, then at that time you cannot go ahead and create or enable that particular link or particular accelerated networking in that net. And you can do it from the portal itself, and also it's enabled in certain regions as only. And the VM size which is required to have to have the accelerated networking is it starts from BS15v2 or and above. So how does that accelerated networking will help you, and how does it's gonna work? Is this is nothing but a feature which we have or which we may have seen in the virtualization as well, where we call that virtualization as server virtualization, right? So in now Microsoft has introduced this accelerated networking is with the help of single root input output virtualization, which is nothing to improve the networking performance. And it's actually how does that happen? So right now you're seeing in the diagram without accelerated networking, where you see physical switch at the bottom, and then there is a virtual switch connected to the network card, right? That virtual switch will imply the rules like ACLs, network security group, and how to pass on the traffic, what all is required to isolate that network or a NIC from one virtual machine, right? So that those things will be applied with that physical server one and server two, where you see virtual switch in it, right? The virtual switch is the actual main component which applies these rules. This happens in this similar way. This happens in the Hyper-V network virtualization as well, where you see, supervisor, which is nothing but a virtual machine manager, imposes those rules on behalf of the Ethernet controller, which lies behind and provide you the physical hardware, right? And contacts everything for you to the virtual, to the guest OS hosted on the Hyper-V. The similar way they have done it in the in Microsoft as well. Now with accelerated networking, you will not have to go through this virtual switch. You will not have to go through the virtual switch. Everything which required to do it for by the virtual switch will be imposed on the physical switch itself. So in that case, the network cards don't have to go through multiple hops, implying those features in them and then contact the virtual machine which is hosted on the Hyper-V server. So that way you can reduce the latency, you can reduce the jitters and the multiple hops to reach those networks, right? Now, if you say like, what is the single root input output virtualization I'm talking about? So single, this is something where you can run a large number of virtualization per server, which reduce which actually reduces the need for hardware you have, right? So only one particular physical server, and then everything in that, like what we call in supervisor the machine manager in virtualization, that everything will be imposed on your physical switch itself. You don't have to imply or you don't have to go ahead and insatiate with this virtual switch in it. So it actually go ahead and help you increasing the flexibility and scalability for those physical server, and reducing absolutely it's reducing the latency for you.
Yeah, so thank you, Rahul, for giving this brief. So, in terms of if you look at the accelerated networking, as Rahul said, that you will have to enable it using the the command. Maybe I can just show the command that Rahul was referring to, so that you guys can understand which command it is. So essentially, you will use a feature called allow accelerated networking. I think it's for Linux, and so for Windows also you'll have to enable that. So once that is enabled, you will be able to achieve the speed in excess of 30 Gbps. So earlier it was, I think, last year it was 25 Gbps. Now it is 30 Gbps. And in just to keep it a layman definition, what is accelerated networking is, earlier you could see that you had a physical switch and you have a virtual switch, and then you have VM. So there is a lot of translation happening back and forth between physical switch and virtual switch. Now with accelerated networking, they have done away with the virtual switch. That means pass through. I don't know if people who come from virtualization world, they will know what I'm talking about. So there was a pass through concept wherein the VM will have direct access to the physical tier. That pass through concept was applied in case of disk also. So Microsoft introduced storage space direct, which is the feature in 2016 and 2012 also. There are a lot of feature which has come through the pass through, wherein the VM will have direct access to the underlying hardware in case of so here also it's the same. You can understand from that concept of pass-through networking, wherein the VM has direct access to the physical switches, which is taking the actual traffic. So,
And
go
Niraj,
ahead.
I
just
just
to
want to,
add
yeah,
that,
sure.
yeah. So
Go
just
ahead,
to
go ahead.
add, you mentioned the pass-through, right? I just remember, the background of the virtualization technique they have used is SRIOV. Generally, we use this SRIOV on the VM level to enable that VM don't want to talk to the virtual switch. I will talk to the PCI device, that is my network device, network card. So that bypasses the multiple ops, as Rahul mentioned. So I will talk to the directly, the NIC, which enables, the virtualization, multi virtualization, and doing the nested virtualization and all. So it will improve the performance. And how we leveraging this the 30 Gbps speed, it's nothing but the SRIOV plus VMQ technique. The VMQ technique generally, just to manage the high throughputs, because the most of the workloads we have seen the SAP kind of a VM or anything which required the high workloads, which is we need to maintain the VMQ enabled always. So the VMQ now, they talked about the physical 4 plus physical core VM. So the 4 plus physical core VM, which is nothing but the VMQ, which leverages the processor to bring the enough bandwidth, because I am going to send the traffic from, say, the source of one, the VM1, to the destination of the on-premise server or the other server. This VMQ utilizes the core processors, which will by default they will have assigned with 8 processors, or the 16 processor, the based on load. Now that's been bring up. Now that's where we are able to achieve a lot of performance from my understanding on the SDN.
Yeah. So
Absolutely.
Oshri has a question that can we enable it for all the VMs? So I think Rahul answered that. You cannot enable for existing VM, but for new VMs it can be. Is that correct, Rahul?
That's right. That's right. So I just want to add it up on the point what Uday was talking about, and Niraj as well, that the enabled NIC, which we have, no longer passes through the virtual switch right now, and which is actually used in the user mode management operating system. That's a host OS which we have. So which requires a multiple host processing, the transmitting packets in and out. And regarding that, the PCI Express, it's just to explain a bit about that. PCI Express is nothing but an extension of the peripheral device which you added upon that, which provides you the higher bandwidth. Now, single root input output virtualization is nothing but which allows a feature called virtual function, and also called the physical function, which is actually added to the NIC of your card. So virtual function is nothing but the features which is there in the virtual switch. Now that feature will be added up onto the physical NIC itself. That way the the traffic is stabilized to go without any hop or multiple passes.
Yep. So the
Yeah.
two terms that Rahul mentioned, after that we'll move on. So SRIOV, which is server input output virtualization. So I don't know, is server. Maybe you can correct me now. And then the
Single,
virtual,
single.
yeah, single. And then the virtual function. So the virtual function is now embedded as a part of the physical hardware itself. So that way it will be able to perform. So the virtual source is no more as a software, but rather it is a firmware in the NIC card or as a part of the physical hardware.
Yes.
And Niraj, just to mention, where do I use the use case of this, the 25 Gbps VM? Because I've recently, in Azure Talk, we have come through one of the question, how do I leverage NVA for, the huge workloads?
Correct.
Even the cost, yeah. Those VMs, this vendor is supported like Checkpoint or FortiGate. We can go ahead and leverage this kind of, the functionality in the NVA devices. It will bring the single NIC with 30 Gbps of throughput. That's enough to handle our production workload. So, and addition to that, the DBTK, DPDK, that's a function in the programming end they want to enable. That's the tightly integration which Intel and other vendors like Cisco or FortiGate or the other vendors to bring the VM, and they have to tightly integrate to better avail this functionality. So that's a use case.
All right. Thank you.
And just one more thing would like to add. How you, the moment you enable the accelerated networking into that particular NIC, if you open, like take an RDP or SSH to that machine, right? You go to the device manager and you will get to see that the NIC as Mellanox Connect X3 virtual function Ethernet adapter.
Yep.
That's the way you can confirm that the accelerated networking is enabled or not.
Yeah. All right. Thank you, Rahul. And in case you have a question, you can type in chat, and if you want to speak up, just raise your hand or just type in, and we will unmute yourself. Thank you. So with that, let's move on to the next slide. Application gateway and web enhancements. So Rahul.
Yeah. So last time we talked about the application gateway. How does that application gateway provided the load balancing service? Now, BAF announcement has happened, and they have introduced the OWASP rule with the core rule set of 3.0, right? And in that, I would like to explain. So, what is the OWASP rule we have? Like, why we use OWASP rule? OWASP rule is nothing but set of rules which prevents you or prevents the web application behind the application gateway with the generic attacks like SQL injection, cross-site checking, local file inclusion, and HTTP protocol violation, and more than that. So there are top 10 features they have included in there. And how does that feature works? So if you have seen that in last time we have shown you that OWASP 3.0 is the one which has been introduced recently. And if you enable the advanced rule configuration, if you check that box, like the same in the diagram which we can see right now, you can see the multiple rules like request 910 IP reputation, request 911 method enforcement. So these are the different sort of rules which help customers web applications hosted in the application gateway. How does this features, like how does this rules is protecting protecting the applications behind the application gateway is with the use of mod security. So mod security is the security model which we use for the web server. This is basically for introduced in Apache Nginx and IIS, and it's actually this module is actually for monitoring and the traffic between the, and it actually checks the traffic between the client and the server onto the hard disk what you have. So with that 70, we know 70% of attacks is not being carried out on the web application level. So every organization needs to protect the application behind the application gateway, and that's the reason these rules are in the picture right now. How there are two different types or two different modes of blocking. What you can see is like we have a core rule set which is nothing but OWASP CRS. Before was 2.0.9. So after that, security guys, or like, I'm not sure who actually made this up, but what I know is after 2.0.9, that version of OWASP, there are two different types of blocking has introduced, which is nothing but traditional and anomaly scoring detection modes. So traditional is something where the packet goes, and the moment it it checks the packet to the application gateway. If you enable the OWASP rule, it will go ahead and check the particular packet, and if it matches these rules, the rules which you see in the figure, like in the particular picture, if it matches those rules, it will directly stop the particular packet there itself. So that sometimes most of the designers or the clients do not want to block certain packets. So what they have came up with is that they came up with a different sort of protection is anomaly scoring detection, which is nothing but it will go ahead and detect the packet more accurately. It will give a number to it. It will score those. It will score those packets. Like if these number of packets comes, and if I detect that packet, if I detect the packet with so there are certain numbers, like if there is a mod security rule within with that anomaly scoring 3, that means the WAF is going to give you a warning. So every request comes over the app gateway, WAF will parses those requests and check these multiple rules, which is in the figure right now, okay, in the core rule set, and add a score to each rule that compute the total anomaly score of request. So once the moment it reaches the number five, it gives you the malicious, that this particular packet is malicious and it's a threat for those applications and
So,
it's blocked.
so the anomaly score is based on how many rules it matches, and based on those, it will generate its own score, anomaly
Correct.
score. And if it is
Correct.
more than five, then it will block it or it will drop it.
Block it.
Okay.
That's right.
So,
And yeah,
mhm. Go
yeah.
ahead.
And to add that, the IaaS with the backend is IaaS of application gateway, IaaS with the OWSP. In on-premise, we are very far in, fixing this vulnerability. When we see in an attack, it will take a time, say 3 day or maybe a 1 day, but when we have a new feature, this integration with application gateway, I'll be quickly getting the fix from the backend of Microsoft, and that they pushing the rules immediately. I am being like a zero protection, like I'll be like quickly protected comparing to on-premise firewalls, on-premise web application firewalls. This is the quick the vulnerability fix able to bring it in our Azure cloud or any of the cloud applications. So there are other third parties, but bringing this OSIP with other solution will be a cost for you, more costed. I've seen that. And this with application gateway, I will be saying it's easy to manage and cheaper comparing with others
Yeah,
on the integration prospects.
yeah, and I like, I can second that too, because in production, without naming any, we are using Imperva WAF, which is like in another web application firewall, and Mangaboni Seti. Okay, I will take your last name, Seti. To answer your question, you had a question: is this like a firewall rule? It's called a web application firewall rule. Yes, it is a firewall for the website. So any incoming traffic to a website has to first go through this WAF, and then it gets inspected. So in terms of the price point, if you look at price point, Imperva WAF also has, and it's very expensive that we are consuming at our company. But the application gateway with the WAF functionality from Microsoft is way cheaper. So certainly this is a product worth looking at it, and with this new enhancement, this is certainly going to be can satisfy your security or your information security requirement for anomaly detection on the WAF level. So with that, let's move on. Before we move on, another thing that we probably, Rahul can talk about is the ability to redirect HTTP to HTTPS. So now with the WAF, you can configure this. So if anybody is trying to hit your website on HTTP, it will redirect the user to HTTPS traffic.
Absolutely. So this is also a very good enhancement which Microsoft came up with. Now, with that ability, any traffic which is receiving on the application gateway, you can redirect the traffic to port 443 to HTTPS, which is what like in normal scenarios which we have seen that on where we go onto the IIS server and enable the HTTP redirection, and where we have mentioned the website, and if we want temporary redirection with 301 or 302 rule or permanent
Yeah.
redirection, we
Yeah.
will do it over there in IIS. Now in this, we go ahead and enable the HTTP direction by creating a front-end port on the application gateway. Okay, the moment we create a front-end port on the application gateway, we create the front-end listener as well. Just very important to keep this thing in mind is with that particular front-end port or the listener, you don't add the backend HTTP settings or the tool which we have in the backend. So that way, and the moment you enable it, there is a switch which you need to enable, that is to redirect the traffic either permanent or temporary with the rule number called 301 or 302. You can redirect the traffic to the port 443,
Yeah,
right?
and
Niraj,
in fact, while we are talking about redirection, I have enabled this redirection on a web app, which is Azure Web App. And if I have to do it, I mean, I don't have a WAF, I'm using it my personal one. There, I had to install a third-party plugin which redirects the HTTP to HTTPS. So, essentially, it's doing the same what Rahul explained you about IIS. So now you don't have to do it. Let's say if you have hundreds of web servers and you're protecting them with the WAF, at the WAF layer itself, you can configure that redirect HTTP to HTTPS. All right. Thank you, Rahul. Let's move on to the next one.
yeah, so the next one is, well, supports multi-tenants backend entities like Azure Web Apps. So Azure Web Apps is something which Application Gateway was not supporting before. Now, how does it works, and why it starts supporting is whenever the request comes on the application gateway, before any request comes on port 443 for any specific website, it goes to the particular website, or and it will return the request response. So application gateway will send the probe to it, and if the application gateway is not receiving a probe with the number in between 200 to 399, it will drop the packet. And this happens because web app sends the authentication request to the application gateway, and the application gateway was not ready to handle that application, or it's not been created in that way that it will accept the request for any authentication, and it will throw you an 402 or something.
Yeah, so this is a very good point about multi-tenancy backend. So earlier, Azure WAF didn't support, or Application Gateway WAF didn't support web app. And that's for that reason, our company went in with Imperva, was one of the tool because it was supporting web app. Now with this new announcement, now your Azure web app, which is multi-tenant in a nature, in a way that you have single web, and on top of that multiple websites are hosted. So you're basically using HTTP host header to differentiate between which website to hit, but all of running on the same server. So now it is supporting multi-tenant backend. With this, you can use Azure Web App, or for Azure to front end also to inspect or to secure that website. So with this, probably it completes the entire package of application gateway and path, and companies can use this for securing not only the IIS running on a VM, but also the web app. Earlier, you could only use application gateway WAF component to only secure an IIS running on a VM, or any VM for that region. But now you can also secure your web apps too.
Okay, and the things which we'd like to add up here is the web app. So web app has its own URL. So anything which comes over the application. So we added up the web apps behind the application is gateways just to protect those web app URLs to be eavesdropped by third party. So what we have done is, like, whenever you create the application gateway to reach out those URLs, Microsoft has restricted not to create a rule with the A record, because anytime when application gateway gets restarted, application gateway tends to lose its the IP address, which in turn you will lose the connectivity to the web app. Now they have asked to create a CNAME records because Microsoft application gateway does not lose its URL. So that way you can go ahead and if it's CNAME, it will redirect. If the packet comes to the application gateway, it will forward the packet to the web behind it.
All right, that's great. Thank you. So let's move on to the next slide. So next slide is about Azure Private DNS.
Because we are not doing this at this point
Okay,
of time.
so maybe I can take this, no problem. So what Microsoft has done, if you in the past, if you've used Azure DNS, so Microsoft this offering was to manage the public DNS. So like if you register your domain name into Azure, and not in Azure, basically Azure doesn't offer you that name registration of your domain. So but if you have used any third-party domain name registrar to register your name, like for example GoDaddy, personally I'm using that. So I have a choice where, like instead of using GoDaddy DNS server to manage my zone, domain zone, public domain zone, I could use Azure, and I can delegate Azure's DNS server to manage my zone of the public DNS, or the public domain that I bought from my domain registrar. But that was only limited to public DNS or public domains. Now with this new feature enhancement, Azure DNS supports the private zone. So what that means, now you can have your own hosted DNS server without having to set up your own DNS server running on a Windows. You don't have to do that, and if you really want to, you can use Azure DNS. So Azure DNS now supports the private zone, and it will work across the VNet. So basically, if you have configured, let's say you have multi VNet infrastructure that you have, and you have hosted a private DNS zone in Azure DNS, the VMs can utilize this zone for name resolution within the VNet and across the VNet. So that's one enhancement that has happened. Some of the use cases where you can use your private zone is split horizon and split horizon, or split brain also. I also call it split brain. Split brain comes into a picture when you have a service. That service should be resolvable from internet as well as from intranet. So let's say you have some resources sitting in your VNet that should resolve to internal server for that service, and services which is outside or on internet, they should resolve that service to an external server sitting in DMZ. So it is also called split horizon or split brain, and a typical use case is your ADFS server. So usually when you have ADFS server, you have ADFS proxy, and then you have your ADFS server which is sitting on intranet. Now with this, what you can do is your DNS server can point, so your public DNS server can point to the to your ADFS proxy which is sitting in the public DMZ, and your private DNS server can point to the your ADFS server which is sitting on intranet. So that way, if you needed that use case earlier, if we needed that use case, we will have to set up our own DNS server. But now with this, you will be able to utilize Microsoft Azure Private DNS to do that. So essentially, your traffic is going to be resolved, or your internet your IP name to IP resolution will happen within the VNet and across the VNet. So that's what is about Azure Private DNS. So earlier you had Azure DNS, but it was only used to manage the public DNS zones. Now you can also manage and create your own private DNS zone, and which can help you, assist you with configuration of a split brain or a split horizon DNS. While we are there, I can quickly bring in one of the slide that probably I just wanted to show you, or maybe one of the drawing that I had and which I typically share today with the team. So maybe I can show you what I really meant about Azure ADFS and the split brain. Yeah, this is the one. So essentially, like when you can use this for your configuration. So let it come up. Yeah. So let's see if I can go full screen.
Still, it's not visible, Niraj. So just to.
Okay. Let me know if you can see now.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Yeah. So like your the split brain DNS, how it works is usually you will have your users which is sitting outside, which is over the internet, and they will try to resolve your ADFS. Let's say it is adfs.cloudec.net. Now I can have my users on intranet side, which is this side, and I can have my users which is on internet. Now when a user from internet is trying to resolve adfs.cloudec.com, that URL, the user should resolve to ADFS proxy, which is sitting in DMZ over here. Whereas if I have an internal user who is trying to resolve the ADFS, it should resolve to the internal ADFS server. I don't want my user to go out to my public DMZ server. So this kind of scenario can be perfectly achieved by using split brain DNS concept or split horizon view concept. You can use that. And now with the Azure DNS, which supports private, zone, that will help you to achieve this without having to set up your own DNS server. Earlier, we had to, if you really want to achieve this, you will have your own private DNS server running on an VM, a Windows server, and that will be configured to point to this IP. But with this, you will not require your own DNS server, and if you really wish to, you can use that private DNS for that. So with that, I think we have a couple of more slides, and then we should be, moving into the demo.
One more slide left.
Okay, so Oshrai has a question. Let me unmute. You are Oshri, you are unmuted. Okay, sorry. Okay, yep. Let me unmute you. No, you are unmuted, so you can go ahead and ask your question. Oshri? You are unmuted. You can ask your question. No? Okay. Let me mute you and let me unmute you. Okay, now I unmuted yourself.
So thank you very much. I want to ask you a question about, okay, if I already have a DNS
Uh-huh.
and I already purchased it in GoDaddy or something like that, and I need to register it again in the DNS, in the private DNS, or I can verify it, something like that. So how it's working?
Sure. So right now we are talking about the private DNS, but the question that you have is for the public DNS. So Microsoft Azure DNS already supports public DNS. So how that concept works is, you register, you buy a domain name from GoDaddy.com, and then after that you will have to your DNS zone management, basically that also you will be usually done by the DNS server of the registrar that you have registered, like GoDaddy. But now you have the ability, if you create an Azure public DNS zone, you can delegate. You'll have to create a delegation record on the your DNS site. So on the DNS side, you'll have to go and say that, hey, I'm delegating my DNS zone management to 4 of the name server which belong to Azure. And there is a complete article, I can share you that. With that, what will happen, all your names, so if somebody is trying to resolve the name, it will go to your DNS registrar, and DNS server, and say that, hey, I don't have authority, but I know who can help you, because I have delegated, or this has been delegated to the DNS server of Azure. So they will send the request to the Azure DNS server, and then from there, the DNS server in Azure will render the IP addresses, or will resolve the IP address for that user. So you'll have to create a delegation record, and that is for public DNS zone, not for private. So private is for internal name resolution. I hope we answered your question. All right, so with that, let's move on to the next one, or probably the last one. This is the last one, and this will mark the finish. We are already 15 minutes past. We'll try to quickly wrap it up, and then we'll go in a couple of demos that probably Rahul and Uday will give. All right, so I think with this, you can Uday, we can talk about traffic view quickly.
Hello.
Yeah.
Yeah. The traffic view, as we said already, that's the more in understanding where is my eat, where is my packet, sir, the more frequently eating, and how is the zone wise segregation, that will help pull it out from the for last 1 week or 2 weeks, the based on the capability right now Azure has announced. So now my understanding on this, which helps the traffic view to control your load on the customer end who is eating, and control your traffic who is unexpectedly or unbehavior situations with your web load traffics. So that's the dashboard which the Azure Traffic Manager gives a lot of the latency and the experiencing approach of the users and the end users capabilities from the dashboard. Actually we can go.
Yeah.
So I already talked about more on this. Yeah, this is on the public IP level again, which help you to again understand which public IP is eating more IP. So I would have a couple of slides, but that's not available right now. So we can take it later.
All right. Thank you, Uday. With that, probably we will dive into the demo section. So I will ask any of you, like, either you or Rahul, you can take over, present your screen.
Yeah. So I'll present my screen.
Yeah, I made you presenter, so probably you should be able to do it. I'll stop presenting.
Okay. So you able to view my screen?
Not yet.
Okay.
Yep, we can say it. Thank you.
Okay. So I have a couple of demos regarding on the LB standard load balancer and NSG log flow integrations. So I have first go with LB standard. So I already created a LB standard just to take the quick on the creation and go to that. So yeah, LB standard we talked last session, which has lot of enhancements, like you can do a zone level redundancy, zone level load balancing. So this is what I just want to mention. It is just to take it here. So I'll just go once again to create the load balancer, and I can show you how the load balancer standard creation works. So I will say.
So basically, what Uday is doing is he's trying to create a load balancer.
Yeah, and the right now I will try to create a internal load balancer. I just want to show you internal load balancer. We have a basic and standard, the two types of SKUs. The basic stand, the basic stands right now, the similar load balancer right now what we have consuming right now. The standard one, which is supported with multiple availability zones or non-availability VMs, unavailability VMs, and thousands of VMs can be in a back and as a workload. So that right now I'm going to choose a standard preview, and this is supported, it's in a preview. This is supported in few of the regions. Right now I already have a load balancer, the VNet created in the region central US, which is supported in a preview. Yeah, so the subnet where your backend pool VMs are there, I just selected and I'll say static IP. So Yeah, I can pick one of the IP from a segment. It's 10.0.0.15. Yeah. So I will use an existing. Yeah. So this is how I created the load balancer, which is already created LB standard. And if I choose, I just want to show you an example. Um, just a moment, my screen. Okay. So demo. Yeah. So I can see the error message when I select the other regions which is not supported in a preview. So that's where the message you get an error. You go ahead and select on the the below regions to create the LB standards. So as in a preview, I not recommend to use in a workload, a production workload. You can test it on the the scenario for an availability zones, or probably an availability set or non-availability sets VM on a non-production or dev or test VMs. So let me go inside the LB standard. Yeah. So here I go. Just want to clarify. Yeah, I have a load balancers front end IP and the backend pool. I don't have as of now any VMs as a backend pool to add. The health probe, generally you have a load balancer for all any applications. You have to create a probe to maintain the health check. That's similar as the basic one. I would differentiate how the load balancer standard and basics, from the configuration. Load balance.
So Uday,
Yeah.
just one question. So this is standard load balancer or the enhanced feature is only available in certain regions today, right? That's why we saw that error message.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. So
And
this is the lab where we can look at that we have high availability port for the load balancer, and I can see that you have HA ports.
yeah.
Okay.
So yeah, this is where the basic also, similarly, adding a rule. When we say rule in a basic, I have to create each and individual application, the multiple ports requirement. I have to create the script, or create from the console. It's a pain for an administrator. If I have a 200 ports, or if I have a 300 ports, and an application want to workload between the backend pools, or the the NVA device. Primarily this is meant for the NVA device. The HA port, right now it's disabled since I don't have a backend pool and the health probe configured. So that's why it's disabled. So as soon as I select, say I say HA port selected, I will get all this option, the protocol, I mean the ports and all this option, going off, and I will see only the UDP, TCP, and all protocols. So it will just, if you select, you will be giving star ports, that is, I mean, wildcard port, and you will have all the protocols supported. So now you have your backend pool. Just a scenario, you have a backend pool of the firewalls, the Cisco, or I mean checkpoint firewall. You can go ahead and add and select the HA port, and this is a private IP. You going to give it to your UDR. I mean, any of the subnet you want to route the traffic to this NVA or the firewall, the 10.0.0.7 would be your UDR. So that is where we are said not required a UDR rerouting, because I can maintain only one front end IP to load balance all my workloads between one NVA device to the secondary NVA device. So that's the flexibility. I don't need to write each and every rule. I don't need to change the UDR rerouting. I don't need to maintain the SDN scripts to do that, or the VM or a cluster to maintain the the switching between one NVA to another NVA. So HCA brings the faster approach to switch over between the workloads from one device to other device, more preferably the firewalls.
So there I have a question. How does the HA ports like will help to do the routing? So you mean to say that in the backend tool we have an NVAs?
Hmm. Yeah.
So does
Uh,
that help?
Yeah, so NVAs generally have a two NICs. Okay, so one is public facing, one other one is private facing. You can go ahead and configure the NVAs private facing NIC to the backend pool, because you have an option of backend pool. If you, as soon as you add a backend pool, you will have to select the particular NIC. So that's where you have to select the particular NIC of the internal NVA device. I mean internal NIC of the NVA device on the two firewalls, and you can do the load balancing. So you have one IP to your all your workloads. So I can go ahead and select in the UDR the one IP. As soon as my firewall primary goes down, the load balancer sits over here and it takes care of the load. The HA port brings the feature from one firewall to other firewall quickly. Instead of doing, I'm writing all the rules from the single first firewall to the secondary firewall. I don't need much time to do that because it's a fast switchover which the load balancer standard brings it actually.
Okay. Thank you so much.
Yeah, so I'm done in the load balancer standard demo. So as a limitation with the workloads bringing like NVA devices, we can't complete the complete HA functionality. So this is how you going to configure the load balancer standard, and you can have your workloads like availability zones, multiple availability zones VM as a backend pool. And to achieve the backend pool multiple availability zones load balancing on the public IP, you have to create a public IP SKU standard. So you have a VM in one region to other region. I mean one zone to other zone. You want to switch over. You have to have a public IP with a standard public IP you have to create. There is a script. I mean that's a PowerShell command. You can just go ahead and create actually. Yeah. I'll just move on to the NSG log flow integration. We talked about log flow integration because we have a lot of challenges in understanding the traffic, as Niraj mentioned and Rahul mentioned. Previously, we don't have visibility to the logs and where is my hits, where is my traffic is going, who is consuming a lot of traffic, which rule is consuming a lot. So that's the visibility to the compliance team or the security monitoring team brings there. So to enable this feature, we need to have the insight resource provider enabled. So I have already tagged in my screen. You generally go to the subscription. Yeah. So to enable the insight registered provider resource provider, you have to go to the subscription, and you have to go to the resource provider. uh, yeah. Yeah, so this is what I've talked about. So this is the insight. To work the better, you need to register this insight resource provider to enable or the enable the NSG flow integration. I already did. uh, so and we have the NSG flow log integration, which integrates with your OMS, which we said without a storage account, and you can integrate with your storage for archiving, and to use the archived logs to pull into your open source tools in a which is in a JSON format. You can download that and you can do it. So I already did down. I just want to show you how do I did. I go to the network watcher where you can enable the NSG flow log integration. Yeah, just a moment. Yeah, so this is where the NSG log flow logs. You can see what and all NSGs. I know the whatever the NSG you have it in your subnet, you have it in your subscription VNet. You can see the status. I can see the status, the enabled. The first the resource NSG, I can see it's the status is enabled. The second resource I don't see it, so I can go here. I can go and choose turn on, and I can set the retention. So I have to choose the storage. So I already have a storage Azure Stock Direct, and I can say that retention, how long my retention of the logs, the energy flow logs. Generally, compliance team used to have 3 months or 2 months, that kind of, or 1 month, and they can archive it actually in their on-premise storage syslog server. So I can just go ahead and enable. So this is where you enable the energy flow log integration from the network watcher. So I have already a storage which is collected that logs, which is currently in operation for one of the NSG. I already enabled for one of the resource. You can go to the blob storage storage account. This is a storage account, my storage account, Azure Stock Diag, and I have a storage account saying that inside logs and network security group flow events. This is where your container gets created automatically, and you see inside that container I see multiple folders. uh, uh, just a moment, just a subscription, okay, resource group, Azure Talk, provider, Microsoft security. Mm, uh, yeah, yeah. So okay, I have enough logs. Yeah. So I have the logs in JSON file, which you can download. You can just select and you can download, and you can integrate using your log integration from your open source tool to this storage to understand the JSON file and download and integrate with your own customization dashboard. So I just show you how that logs looks. This is where the 5 tuple logs. You can see that my IP and my port and where is the going, everything you can see. So I stands for inbound, the traffic, and which I able to see the deny all rule. Inbound rule take care of this traffic. So this is where my the complete flow. If I put it in a nice open source tool, the integration gives me dashboard completely, so I can move it for an audit or the complete day-to-day operation, security operation activities. So yeah, any questions on this?
If you have any questions, please type it in chat, or you want to speak up, you can just type in
Yeah,
and unmute yourself.
yeah,
So I don't see any question at this point of time.
yeah.
So
And
go
yeah.
ahead.
And I quickly go into the energy log, which we can, integrate the other one. I said directly you can integrate with OMS,
Yeah.
because I don't have an open source tool. I can, I want to leverage the Azure native tools. That is an OMS. OMS has a gallery. Azure Network Security Group Analytics is one of the solution. You can go ahead and enable. I have created a free one, which helps you again to understand the solution you can enable, and you can understand the flow logs from the OMS. So I click. Uh, 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 yeah, I'll show you how do we enable the NSG analytics solution gallery from the gallery. Just keep loading. I have already opened, so I just want to show you. Uh, you can, everyone familiar with open OMS, something on a dashboard, because I've seen now everyone, instead of maintaining the logs or monitoring the things, everybody moving into OMS, because it has a lot of capabilities to understand your workloads and understand your availability things, security analytics, everything. So keeps it loading. Yeah.
So Sakiram has network watcher works resource end-to-end monitoring. So network watcher, Sakiran, I have unmuted everybody. So if you really want to speak up, you can unmute
Yes,
yours.
yes.
Yeah.
This is Saikiran, sir.
Yes, Sakiran. Go ahead.
Yeah.
Sir, mainly network watcher is can be only resources end-to-end monitoring only. That another part. We heard the virtual machines are talking each other. Which virtual machine is ready to contact to another virtual machine, checking only that purpose, or only resources leveling or watching.
So Network Watcher is meant for your VM. So you want to monitor your VMs and traffic going out of that. So when you enable Network Watcher, it basically starts capturing the traffic going in and out of your VM. And that's how it does. It will install extension or plugin on your VM for Network Watcher, and then it will start capturing those logs. That's for the Network Watcher.
How to check the IP flow, verify which VMs can be talked to under which one? Is there any?
So yeah, so in maybe you can show, or Rahul, you can also speak up if anything that I didn't cover, or probably you know better than me. You're a networking guy. So when you go in Networking Watcher, there is IP verify flow log, and there you can go and look at. So Uday, if you can go to portal.
That's that called Network Watcher Flow Log, where if you click on it, you will get the entire diagram for how those VMs and from
Yeah, so
where to where this particular
yes,
packet
IP
goes.
flow verify. If you look at on the left side, topology will give you the entire topology of your infrastructure. If you had any VM, and I will show you. So you'll have to select your resource group in topology view. But anyway, so if you go in IP flow verify,
I have one question, sir. You can choosing the certain region, only one region it can be accessible, or total regions it can be alternate to choose.
you can enable network watcher in all the regions. So I mean, you have to enable region by region. So, but you can
Okay,
enable it
okay.
for the entire region.
You can using network watcher, but there is a monitoring and the active logs there is not used.
Sorry, I didn't understand you. If you could you repeat it?
You can using the network watcher,
Yeah.
but also they can be more monitoring and active logs. Also
So
they can
mon
use
Yeah, so for monitoring, that the NSG flow log you're talking about, those flow log is going into OMS. So OMS is your monitoring piece that you are referring to. If you're referring to that, yes, you can monitor entire resources, not only the VM. You can monitor the entire resources, VM, Azure Web App, and other diagnoses. OMS supports a whole lot of more monitoring than just NSG
okay,
flow.
okay.
Yeah. Yeah, so Niraj, we have a subscription, resource group, and VM, the source VM, and I can specify the port, which port I want to, connect to the destination machine. As soon as I give the destination IP and the remote port and check that if its access is there, it's allowed. If its access is not there, it will throw and it is not there, and we need to work on the NSG or probably a VNet connectivity. It can, the remote IP, it doesn't mean that it is a local machine or the Azure resources. You can check if you have a client machine which is connected through the site to site VPN. You can again connect with the, the network check, IP flow, and whatever you can do.
Absolutely. In the same way, you can check the connectivity check preview. That feature was that GA. You can see what is the next hop for you, and by as Uday said, like you can check it. Like over there, you have specific manually whatever wherever you want to go and select a virtual machine and within the Azure region and how does it flow. So this network watcher is on the express route as well. This network watcher is on the VPN as well. So you can like use this feature a lot to diagnose your latency issues and network issues in your network.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
also there is one good thing about the network watcher. If you look at, there is something called packet capture, right? That's what I was referring to when you asked question about monitoring. I really got confused. With the packet capture, you can add your VM, and essentially what it will do is it will install, and you see it says, right, if you just go into the error message, just select the error message, not select the other VM, and it was giving an error message that there is no extension installed. If you, yeah, it says Azure Network Watcher. So what you need to do, even before you start capturing, you'll have to install Network Watcher extension on the VM. So there are many extensions available. Network Watcher extension is another one. Once it gets installed, then it can remotely capture the traffic going in and out of your NIC card of the VM. So that's how it works. That will capture the traffic for you, and then you can store it in storage account, and then you can download it locally to analyze the traffic if you're doing any network level troubleshooting. So in addition to NSG flow log, you also have Usually on-prem, what we do, we will use Netmon or Wireshark to take network traces. You can do so here using a network watcher packet capture tool.
Yeah. The capture logs can be again exported to a file that you can mention here, as Neeraj mentioned the good, because we don't have any log analysis or a packet capturing in a tool on Azure cloud. You have to install in one of the machine and try to capture, to bring all this setup, and as soon as your issue gone, we will not able to capture these logs because of more, or Microsoft to analyze, they need this kind of event. You can quickly go ahead and capture the packets when there is a issue between VNet to VNet, or subnet VM to another subnet VM. The latency you can capture from here.
Yeah. All right. I think we
uh,
are 40 minutes over, so maybe we can quickly switch to the integration. Looks like
yeah,
couldn't get the data. Okay.
yeah. Yeah, so I have a Azure Network Group Analytics which already owned, so I have already added, so that's why it shows as owned. I have another screen which actually uh, you will see an option Azure Network Security Group Analytics. As soon as I click that, so I already added, so that's why you see here in the dashboard. You can customize this dashboard. Actually, OMS brings a lot of features with the customizing dashboard. Um, and I've enabled the data plan free, so you will not be charged since the retention is 7 days. So you will not be charged for this feature to enable and play around. So I'm seeing currently an issue with integration. Might be I have to take a lot of time to get integrated. So yeah, so this is okay.
Yeah, I mean, that's how you will integrate your NSG flow log. Once you integrate, that gets imported into AMS, and you can perform different kind of analytics and analysis, and that will help you to really determine the root cause and the actual problem of your packet drops. So, that's why you would use this feature to quickly identify the problem.
Yeah, just to go back and just want to, as Niraj said, the how to integrate the OMS quickly. I already integrated. I have VM, I have NSG. I go on to the diagnostic logs, and you have an option add diagnostics. You can give a name saying the test or something, according to your NSG logs name. You can archive, so you can store all the NSG logs to a storage account. You can go ahead and select the storage account. So in the particular subscription,
Yeah, so if you
yeah.
go back,
So
so this is for, yeah, this is storage. So if you go back, uh, and the bottom you have send to log analytics, that's where you will integrate this to OMS. So, and with that you can configure, it will ask you to specify your OMS workspace that you own. So there are 3 workspaces. If you want, you can create one, and then yeah, so anyone you can do it.
yeah, yeah. So that you can as soon as say name of these diagnostic settings and save. It will take couple of minutes to the transfer the logs without you don't need mandatorily select the storage account doing this activity. You can send directly to the, which I mentioned, directly you can send the logs to the the OMS. So this is a quick feature without open source tool in on-premise, or managing a VM with syslog server. I can manage my network, all the flows and all the performance related. So it's a quick integration setup. So you can go ahead and do it. So
All right. So I think with this, I know we are 40 minutes are allotted time, but I think this is what concludes our demo. So any questions so far? Okay, no questions. So in that case, probably I want to thank everybody for taking out time and joining our Azure Talk session. As I said, this is a weekly session. If you really want to be part of this session on regular basis, go to www.cloudeasy.com, and there is a form to register onto the website. You can go ahead and register so that you become part of our database, and you will receive this constant invite that we send out, regular invite that we send out to our Azure Talk subscribers. And in addition to that, you can also be part of our Azure Talk chat-based group, which is the forum that we run. We have more than almost 1,600 people there, and we actively answer questions and we are ready to help and answer any of your questions that you have. So please feel free to join that group too. You can go to azuretalk.cloudeasy.com. It will redirect you to our Telegram group. So with that, I will take this opportunity to thank our speaker and Uday and Rahul, who took out time to give this presentation. I really thank you for both of you for taking out time, and I also want to thank everybody for taking out time to join this session. Hopefully, we will have more productive and useful sessions for you in upcoming days, and we will cover a lot more topic on Azure. So once again, thank you everybody for joining today, and you can keep a watch on our website, and we will post a recording of this in coming days. Thank you.
Thank you, Niraj.
Thank you.
Good
Thank
night.
you guys.
Thank you,
Bye.
Rahul.
Hey, thank you guys.
Thank you
Thank you.
all.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye.